Welcome back,
To
folks.
another episode.
Yes, to another episode, as you've said,
Yes.
we're uh, we're talking some movies today.
It's been a little bit, so we decided
Yeah,
music can sit this one out.
yeah. When was the last time we talked movies? Dune, couple months ago, maybe.
Yeah, Dune.
Yeah. Well, we didn't see any new movies because we're
No.
lazy like that, but we're gonna talk about some movies
Right.
because everything is all Marvel, Marvel, Marvel. I love Marvel. Marvel's so good. Marvel's the best franchise. And to be frank, DC's made some pretty bad movies
Right.
over their time.
Like a lot of them.
Yeah, like many.
Yeah.
Like we'll get into that in a minute, but yeah. But they have some redemptive films.
Yeah, they do. When they hit big, they really hit big, I feel like. So,
I agree. And so we came up with the idea to do five our five best DC movies.
yeah.
We want to rank these out, let people know what we think the five best are. And very quickly we realized that most of them are Batman films. And I told you very seriously, I think I could make an argument for 7 of the 10 best DC films
Yeah.
being Batman iterations.
Right. I could after looking through I could probably five of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. For sure. I'm curious which 5 now because you said you haven't seen any of the originals. But
I'll let you know after we do the
okay,
main
okay,
topic. I'll
okay.
let you know.
So, to make things a little more interesting, this episode will be henceforth titled The Best Non Batman DC Movies.
Right.
So, here we go. 5 movies, best DC films that are not Batman, at least not Batman solo films, or,
Right.
if you want to go about it that way. Um, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to start us off?
I can start us off.
All right, start us off.
So we'll go bottom to top. So at number five, I have Aquaman. Um, it's w one of my, if not my favorite DC hero. I thought it was very well put together, and it gave me hope for the future of DC. Like it's it putting Jason Momoa as Aquaman to me made Aquaman so much less cringe with his like gross orange suit and this like scrawny little blonde boy. So Aquaman made me very excited to for what's to come. Granted, I didn't even see the second one. I heard the second one was just atrocious. Um, but the first one, very enjoyable film to me. At number four, I have the more recent Suicide Squad movie. I thought it was absolutely comedy. I thought the action was great when it needed to be. Um, I do like when, and this is for Marvel and for DC, but I love when the no-name characters get a chance in the spotlight just to kind of like see what they're about, let us know who they are and whatever. But this one was comedy. In my opinion, I think it's way better than the first Suicide Squad movie. I keep going back and forth on that one if it's a good or a bad film, but this one, it's just comedy. It's great.
It's like the
Um,
Nicolas Cage of movies. Like, is
no,
it good or bad?
100%.
I have no idea.
Exactly.
It could go either way.
Exactly. At number three, I have Wonder Woman. It was a phenomenal movie. I thought the CGI was really good. I thought the action sequences were great. Gal Gadot played phenomenal as Wonder Woman, and that was the first movie. After that, I think Aquaman came out. So seeing those two movies, I'm pretty sure like close to back, I was like, okay, like here we go. DC's making a run. Like this is nice. And then Wonder Woman 84 came out, and that was also atrocious and not one for the books.
Right.
Um, at number two, I have the Zack Snyder's Justice League cut. Um, I thought overall as a superhero team movie, I thought it was really good. I thought everybody had enough screen time. I thought actually that's really all I can tell you off the top of my head because that was so long ago and I refuse to watch that movie again just because I do remember it was quite long. Um,
Yeah,
but I know that I enjoyed that one way more than the first one.
agreed.
My favorite DC movie, hands down, that is not Batman, is Joker with how do you say his name?
Ooh,
Hakeem
Joaquin Phoenix.
Wahim. Yeah, him.
Joaquin, yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Absolutely.
pick.
It was so good, but so disturbing at the same time.
Yeah,
It there were definitely a couple parts where I felt my stomach turning and I wanted to throw up and like I had to look away at some points because it's just gruesome. But
yeah,
he he played a phenomenal Joker. I liked getting to know the background of like hit this character and seeing like the mental illness portion instead of just like the villainy part of who the Joker is.
yeah,
Um, and I loved the mayhem that he brought. I That movie was
yeah,
outstanding.
yeah. That's a super well done film for
Yeah,
sure. I'll agree with you. I feel like in the realm of superhero films, it's really easy to follow a recipe of like action, uh, CGI, just standard recipe for what a superhero film should be.
right.
And to DC's credit, I think when they go a little different direction than just that standard, I think they do it fairly well. Like you're saying with the Joker, when you approach it from like a mental illness angle or whatever, if you want to look into the Batman films and the Christopher Nolan films, when you go into like a non-standard CGI film and you kind of add more layers to it, I think they do that pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, did you have any honorable mentions, or was it just a challenge to come up with the five?
Honestly, like I was so happy that there were just those five. Like
Okay.
I went through all of their films and I was like, man, it's a real good thing that I enjoyed these ones because I mean, I
Yeah.
guess honorable mention Blue Beetle. I'm not gonna say it's a trash film. I did like enjoy that film. Um,
Mhm.
it's just it I don't know. It's in the realm of mid, but like on the higher portion of mid.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Um, well, I'll get into my list, and I do have a few honorable mentions
Perfect.
because I grew up on DC. Like in my really early years, there was no Marvel really,
Yeah.
like until you get the Incredible Hulk. But I was like 6 or something when that came out, and so like in my early years when I was like a young kid, there was no like at least popular even just kids shows. Like the Spider-Man cartoon was kind of like the only
Right.
one that I was aware of, but like Avengers wise there wasn't really things like that, so it was all like Batman, Justice League, Superman. Like those were all the cartoons that I grew up on and that like I was interested in as films when I started getting a little older to watch like
Yeah.
more live action kind of movies. So I have a couple honorable mentions because of that. The first being the 1978 Superman, like very
Mm.
original Superman movie, one of the first like blockbuster superhero films, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I think obviously if you watch this movie today, it's like kind of cheesy and you're like, what the heck is going on? But I think if you look at the time period and the movies that were coming out, this is like Star Wars era, early Star Wars. And it was one of those films that kind of revolutionized the sci-fi genre and catapulted like, wow, we can really take these comic book characters, bring them to life, and people are going to enjoy it. And now you have 4 iterations of Spider-Man and you have,
Yeah.
every Batman that you could ever want. And all these franchises, I think, really owe a lot to that earliest Superman film, and I grew up enjoying that one and watching that one. But the second honorable mention is one that I was more cognizant of because it came out when I was actually aware of movies coming out and not like 25 years before I was born. And that's Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. It's not a great film, but like one of the earliest superhero movie films that I remember seeing. I think it came out around the same time as Batman Begins.
Mm.
So it was one of those that I like was like, holy crap, there's a new Superman DVD. Let's watch it, and being stoked for that. And then these last two are both films that are pretty notoriously atrocious. Like they're pretty awful. But I nonetheless loved my viewing experiences of these films because of how nostalgic they made me feel. Because when I was a little kid, like these were the heroes that I grew up watching every day after school and whatever. And so to finally see them on the big screen, regardless of how poorly the movie was executed, was just kind of awesome for me. And the first one is Ryan Reynolds' Green
I
Lantern
knew it.
film.
Bro, once that one like crossed my screen, I was like, I know for a fact Ryder's bringing this one up.
Yeah. It's a terrible movie. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have so many better performances in their career. The CGI is pretty embarrassing, and yet still like like if it's on, I'm not gonna turn it off because it's just like it makes my soul happy that like when it came out in the early 2010s or late 2000s or whatever it was, I was like, oh my gosh, there's a Green Lantern film.
Yeah.
And like me being naive and growing up in the era where Jon Stewart was the uh, main cartoon Green Lantern, and I had like yet to read comic books. I was like furious at how racist DC was that they recast this black character as white before I realized like, oh snap, this is actually like a different Green Lantern, you know? So, anyways, 6-year-old me is just in a fit of rage, like, how could they do this? No, it's
Fuming.
a it's a it's a different guy, so we're cool there. Um, give Jon Stewart his respect though. Put some respect on his name and give him a legit Green Lantern film.
Oh, that's funny.
Um, next up though, last honorable mention again, another one that is like just one that's really nostalgic for me is Batman versus Superman.
Mm.
Um, again, not like a fantastic film by any stretch, but growing up and watching those two characters in various Justice League cartoons, reading their comic books as I got older, and like enjoying many crossover movies that they had in animation when I was young. Super, super cool to see them together on the big screen, regardless of like, however it turned out.
Yeah.
So let me get into my list here because you brought up a film that I forgot about, and I'm
Mm.
going to switch out my number 5 here, which was Wonder Woman, but is
Mm.
now going to be The Joker
Wow.
because I agree with you. I think it's very well done. Totally forgot like that could count. You know, don't know why, but here I am, and I think it's a very interesting commentary. It almost like makes you, I don't want to say be on his side, but like see his perspective,
Yeah.
which is really interesting and makes for a engaging watch. It's like one of those films, like you're saying, that it's like you don't want to watch it, but like you can't look away, kind of
Right.
thing. You're like, what the heck do I like? I don't know how to feel about what I just watched.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, it reminds me a lot in its tone of the Killing Joke animated film, which
Mm.
is another animated film that I'm pretty um I don't know what I was gonna say, but like that I think is pretty good. Um, but it's a little different path of like the Joker's origin story, and so in its own avenue, I kind of respect that about it. But my fourth one is this the polar opposite, complete polar opposite of the Joker, and it's Shazam. I think the original first Shazam film is super, super funny. I think it's a character that not a lot of people are super familiar with, and so
Mhm.
to have his story brought up is interesting. It's a little bit, not a little bit, it's a very different style of character um, than every other superhero because if you're looking at the closest things to like what Shazam is, you have like younger superheroes,
Mhm.
but like it's such a unique character angle to have like his secret identity be just like a young teenager and then his actual superhero to be like some big adult. And so
Right.
I think it provides a lot of laughs. It's pretty witty. I give a lot of acting credit to the cast there because I think they do a good job. Um, and it's one of the films that like in today's era where everything is unnecessarily funny in superhero films, it's one of the few that I'm like, it works here. It works for this film. I
Yeah.
think it works that it's that funny. And then we'll go into third with another tone switch to Zack Snyder's cut of the
Mm.
Justice League. It's excruciatingly long if you watch it all at once. I think the best way to watch it is over. I don't remember how many acts there are in it. I think four, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken, three or four. I think it's best to watch them in separate acts as like a mini series
Yeah.
if I were to do it again. But I'll agree with you. I think it gives characters adequate screen time, which is where it fell short in the Justice League theatrical cut because it you don't feel invested in any of the characters when they get to various points in the film. And I think Zack Snyder's cut of the film fixes that.
Yeah.
I also like that it introduces a few unique characters that we haven't seen much of. Martian Manhunter is one. There's some appearances from Green Lanterns, which is cool. But yeah, I think it's a well done film. I do wish it was a little shorter, but I'll take what I can get. I guess if I'm
Right.
picking quality over length, that's fine with me. Um, and then we'll go up to number two. I don't think you've seen this film yet, still, but it's Man of Steel,
Mm.
Henry Cavill's debut as Superman. And a lot of people give this movie a lot of flack, and I think it's hard because it comes in an era with films like Captain America, Iron Man, the Dark Knight series, where things are a little outrageous, but they're more down to earth. Not fully down to earth, but they're
Right.
more down to earth. They're a little more like you can kind of wrap your head around the scale of it. And then Superman's just this like outrageous, over the top, like the entire city is just in shambles, decimated by the end of the film because of the power and the chaos of the fight that these beings have. Um, and I will say the CGI is a little over the top at times, but I think the brilliance of this film is in the acting performances. I think Henry Cavill's fantastic. I think General Zod is fantastic. Amy Adams as Lois Lane is great. Um, Kevin Costner, who plays his dad on Earth, is fantastic, and Russell Crowe, who plays his Kryptonian dad, is also fantastic. Um, Anyways, it's a really interesting story to like get you acquainted with the character of Superman. It's told through a lot of flashbacks while he's an adult, flashing
Mm.
back to his early childhood, which I think is a really cool angle for the origin story of him, rather than like a Batman Begins or a Spider-Man where it's like they spend 15 minutes on this opening sequence of becoming the hero,
Right.
and then the last hour and a half is like them early in their career. It's more like he's going throughout it, interspersed with like how he's gotten to this point or whatever. So it's kind of cool. I really like the writing of it. I think it brings a lot of emotion when you watch it, because despite being a character that kind of feels like a bully a lot of times in
Mhm.
other films that he's in, it kind of makes you feel bad for him at different points in like seeing how he grew up or whatever. Anyways, super, super good film. But my first overall number one favorite DC film that isn't a Batman film is kind of a cheater pick, but I'm going to go with it anyways. It's a film called V for Vendetta. Have you ever
Mm.
seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. So this is based on a DC comic book. And if you watch the film, it says DC Comics in like the title sequence when it's starting.
So
So
you're
I'm
in the
counting
clear.
it.
You're in the
I'm
clear.
counting it. It's a super, super, super interesting film. It is very similar to the Joker, where it's not, doesn't feel at all like you're watching a superhero movie. It's kind of based in this post-apocalyptic world, um, and it very closely resembles um, other periods in history where mankind was at its worst. There's a lot of like elements that will like remind you of like World War II Holocaust era stuff, or various kind of similar times when there were un what's the word that I'm looking for here, not good leaders, let's say that. Not good leaders, and a lot of corruption. And this guy, this superhero, quote unquote, he's kind of a superhero, but like a very toned down, basic version of a superhero. Like, yeah, he wears a mask, he's a vigilante, but he's like fighting with swords and like that kind of stuff. He's not like Iron Man suit, super soldier serum. Like, no, he's just like a casual dude. At one point, his like protection is literally like a medieval suit of like chest armor. Like, that's kind of the extent that you get out of it. But it's a super interesting commentary. It kind of talks a lot about how eras, or it shows you how eras of history mirror themselves if you're not careful as a society. And it also kind of, it, I don't know what the best way to describe it as without ruining the film,
Mhm.
but like it's a good commentary on how, if you're not careful, what paths can lead to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's like you think of all these things that like aren't a big deal right now, but then this film looks back on these things that we're worrying about, right, or that we're like, oh, they're not a big deal right now, and they're like, those are the seeds that got us to this point. Anyways, also post COVID, it's a super interesting watch because a big part of how the world got to this post-apocalyptic state was from like a very similar disease path. It's really interesting. Anyways, super, super good film. Some kind of cringy, creepy parts of it
Mm.
because of like the corrupted people in power. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. But it's a super, super good film. The main character, V, is awesome. You like never, you learn very little about him. Like, you never see him without a mask, like the whole
Oh.
film. So you don't learn anything about, you learn very little about him as a person. You do learn some, but and Natalie Portman, who's the main actress, is fantastic in this one. If you haven't seen it, it's well worth the watch. But like I said, be warned that it's a little cringy at some parts.
Yeah, that's fair.
But anyways, that's my top five. Those are my films.
Nice.
I like your list.
Thank you. We had a couple
Um,
differences, and that's what I
yeah,
like.
yeah, for sure some differences, but I think when you're talking DC, there's only so much room for diversity in
Yeah.
in the best. Uh, let's hear your argument for 5 out of 10 Batman films before we
so
wrap this up.
so yeah. So and I'm not gonna remember the exact titles of Christopher Nolan's three Batmans. I know that Batman Begins is the first one. That's about it. My number one would be the one with Joker. So whichever Batman's that.
The Dark Knight.
Thank you. So it'd go Dark Knight and then the Batman with what's his name? Robert Patterson. Is that his name? Yeah, so that'd be my number
Yeah,
two,
Robert Pattinson.
Pattinson.
Yeah,
Um, and then three would go to um Bane, just because the dialogue in that movie's phenomenal.
yeah, The
Um,
Dark Knight Rises.
thank you. And then at number four, Batman Begins. And at number five, I don't. It's the Lego Batman movie. That movie's so freaking good, dude. I don't
Yeah,
think you quite understand how much I love that movie,
to be frank, I don't think I've ever seen that one.
dude. Go ahead and give it a watch
Okay, okay,
because it's ridiculous. Like,
yeah, I've seen enough clips that I can like hear that and not be outraged by that take.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah,
I'll have to
it's
give it a watch.
it's a ridiculous movie, and I love it with everything that I have to offer. So,
I love the like memes that I see where it's like comparing the physical quality or like physical prowess of this theatrical Batmans, and it's like Ben Affleck 6'4", 230, Christian Bale 6'1", 215, Michael Keaton 6 foot 195, and then it's like Lego Batman, Will Arnett, or it's Will Arnett, right? It is like 2 inches. So those always crack me up when I see those.
yeah, it's just
Um,
ridiculous. I might need to go ahead and watch that one again.
yeah, yeah, I agree. You got to watch Man of
I
Steel
do have to
if you
watch
haven't
Man of
seen it,
Steel. Yeah, I
and you
do.
got to watch V for Vendetta. Um, those are both great. V for Vendetta actually, besides The Dark Knight, is the only DC film that is in my. Actually, I think it's the only other superhero movie in my top 10 films ever.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy.
it's a super good watch. It's for a mature audience for sure, just because it's kind of heavy, but
Yeah.
super super cool. The
Yeah.
action sequences are fantastic. I'll have to send you a clip after to like
Okay.
get you to want to watch the film. But anyways,
Okay.
great movies. Next week, I don't know what we're gonna do. Word on the street, Kanye may drop. I may or may not want to review that movie or that album because of how bad Vulture's one was. But who knows? Maybe we'll
Yeah.
go see Planet of the Apes or something and
Does
talk
that
some
come
more
out?
movies. I think it comes out soon. I don't know when. The other one that just came out was that Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt film,
Mm.
Fall Guy, I
Yeah, yeah,
think.
that one looks good too.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I
Yeah.
might give that a watch.
Yeah. I
So
need to get a better picture in my head of Ryan Gosling other than Ken from Barbie. So,
yeah, it's really a shame you moved because like this is the perfect time for, you know, Sunday afternoons. There's no football. It's a good time to
yeah.
culture you on some movies that you haven't
No,
seen,
literally.
show you a little La La Land, Remember the Titans, good Ryan Gosling films. So you
Yeah.
don't just have this taste of Barbie in your mouth.
Yeah, it's terrible. Because I don't watch I don't like to watch movies by like myself, and I don't have
Yeah.
friends to just watch movies with. It was
Yeah.
you, so
Well,
fortunate.
you know, road trip up here. We'll make a marathon out of it. Man of Steel, Lego Batman, V for Vendetta, La La Land. We'll get it all done.
Dude, sounds good to me. Like I have nothing better to do, so
Well, if anyone's still listening to this nonsense, drop us a comment, shoot me an email, send me a fax, let me know your favorite DC film and what film DC should make because clearly they need to change up the recipe.
I'd say so.
Yeah. Well, until next time when we talk about something,
Right.
I'm Jaden McFarland,
And I'm Ryder Vance.
and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Cheers.